right, so today we're going to unbox one of the Golden Age of Piracy Part 1 mega packs. So this is part of my Pirates of the Age of Sail custom set for Pirates CSG. This is the newest Pirates release, and it's the first mega pack that is part of my new subscription offer. So that's going to be the only way game is in print and stays in print is if I can get consistent demand. And we've got our pack insert here. So I designed and produced all these game pieces. So this one is based on obviously the Golden Age of Piracy. So in this particular case, we're going to see characters from the early 1700s, kind of towards the tail end of the Golden Age of Piracy. And there is a diagram on the back for the brig ship type. So this one is reused from the 1812 mega pack because the brig in this one, it is a little bit different, but it's similar enough that I didn't really see the point in using the time to make a new assembly diagram. So we'll get into it right here. So the first ship is Fancy. So this is Edward England's Fancy, not the one from Henry Every that you might be familiar with from history. So this one, a lot of cargo spaces, +1 to cannon rolls against English ships. As usual, all these historical customs are based directly on history. So I try to have stats and abilities that directly reflect what the ship did or what the crew did and how they participated in various historical events and time periods. So, so Fancy, obviously with the historical stuff, the artwork usually won't get too crazy because I try to keep the artwork to be realistic as well. So in this case, I did add Edward England's flag on one of the coming off one of the yard arms, basically. So that's Fancy, and this one links to Edward England, of course. So, and here, 34 gun vessel. And when I see things like that in the historical record, I always try to do my best to match the armament to, what it actually was. So there actually are 34 cannons between the hull and the different decks. You can count to all 34 cannons on there as usual. Of course, here there is some historical license taken because a lot of times with things like that, we don't know exactly how many guns per deck or whatever and things like that, but or where exactly the cannons were versus HMS Victory, for example. There's perfect, historical record, and the ship is still in existence, so it's easier to tell. So Cassandra is the next ship. So this is the 3-mast B model. So the next two ships are this same ship type. So Cassandra links to Jasper Seeger, Richard Taylor, and Olivier Levasseur. So we'll see all of them later. So this one has some pretty interesting stuff going on. So based on history, +2 to boarding rolls against Portuguese ships, and English crew can use their abilities on the ship. So of course, there's no released Portuguese ships in Pirates CSG yet, but there could be, depending on how well this mega pack does and how well potentially future mega packs that might come out as part of the subscription offer do. So Cassandra, good cargo, good speed. I wanted pretty much all these to have good cargo holds so that even after crew come aboard, they have room to steal gold from enemy ships, because a lot of these were involved obviously in piracy and looting and pillaging. So to make sure there's cargo for stolen gold, even after you add your combat type crew or named crew and things like that. And the linked crew will make that even easier. So this one is Victory. So obviously no relation to HMS Victory, just a naming coincidence. And Richard Taylor is the link. So 36 gun ship, participated in the capture of the Cassandra, and another, of course, a very famous capture. So this one wanted to have some battle damage and some holes in the sails and whatnot for the artwork. So +1 to reboarding rolls. So one of the more simple ships in the release, but pretty decent bang for your buck on the value there. So La Luis. So this one is one of the more unique ships in this release. So this is the 2-mast brig with the new variant. So I didn't want it to be exactly like USS Niagara because that would be historically kind of strange. So it's a little bit more of a classic brig look, a little bit less of the snow brig design. So I wanted to keep that, the fore and aft sails coming out of the masts, even though it's only a 2-masted ship, makes it look a lot better. So, and you can see I'm going to publish a build video of me building this one too, where you'll be able to see it in full. So this one is the main ship, at least for this release, of Olivier Levasseur. So It was one of his first commands. It's not the ship that he had during some of his most famous exploits, but it was one of his early ships he used. So, stolen merchant ship with 22 cannons. So, so this one has abilities, of course, based on history as well. So can randomly take two treasures from any ship she touches. So like filching gold, but devil. So, and then the ship gets -1 to her terrain rolls because I think she sank in a storm or from a reef or something like that. So this one pretty fun. It's got Olivier Levasseur. His flags are all over the different sails and masts and coming off the yard arms and things like that. So that one was really fun to make. That might be my favorite ship in the set between the combination of new ship type, the artwork, and even the ability spread too, and like the overall, what the ship is like in gameplay. So that one was really fun. Flying King was cool as well. I was really happy with how the artwork came out for this. I think this may have been actually the first ship I finished the artwork for this release. So Flying King has a link to Robert Sample, who we'll see soon, and crew assigned to the ship don't take up cargo space. So in this case, should allow her to be a pretty good hybrid with the idea that you'd add crew because why not? And then she could be a hybrid like raider. Hopefully, obviously, with only one mast, she might only go after your enemy gold runners that are kind of smaller, but that's okay. So for named crew, this is one of the highlights of the pack. Of course, you got your big named crew on like the rare card. It would be rare if this set was ever collectible. Olivier Levasseur and Edward England. So this is a crew for twofer with both of them. Trying to go away from AI work, so you'll see some flags and different like public domain drawings and paintings for some of the artwork. So that's one of Olivier Levasseur's pirate flags, which is like probably one of the coolest and most like ominous pirate flags I've seen. Actually, I think it's really pretty interesting and pretty cool. So Levasseur, captain, and then the +2 gold ability. And he's got a ton of links. And you'll notice that some of his links, they're all based on history, of course, and his adventures, if you will, his crimes and whatnot. You'll notice a lot of these are not released yet. So that's kind of intentionally a teaser so that if this does well, and if the subscription does well enough over time, some of those folks may actually come into the game later on. So it's almost a little bit of a teaser in case they get produced. And kind of similar to, it reminds me of, there's a ship in Spanish Main that I think Windjammer forts cannot hit this ship, and then forts didn't come out until Crimson Coast. So it's kind of interesting. Whether or not that was intentional, I can't remember. But anyway, so Edward England, linked at Fancy, Royal James, the historical version, Cassandra, and Christopher Winter as well. Captain with Hoarding Gold, so he should be pretty good for the game as well. And classic pirate abilities, so he should be fun to use. Richard Taylor with his pirate flag right there for the artwork. And this one, he's got a bunch of links as well. And on the back, we've got Jasper Seeger, like we saw linked from Cassandra earlier. So Jasper Seeger has, once per turn, if the ship is touching another ship, she can randomly take as much treasure from the other ship as she can carry. So similar to Hoarding Gold, but more automatic. You don't have to actually win the boarding party, which is why it's usually more expensive. I think originally it was like 6 points. I think it was a little overpriced, so it's debatable if it's worth like 3, 4, or 5. But anyway, probably more than 3 at least. If Hoard is like 3 or 4 points, probably better cost than 5 for Hoarding Gold. So Richard Taylor, +1 gold ability. Crew can use its abilities on Spanish ships, and then once per turn, the ship carries treasure with an S of a Dutch ship or fort. You may randomly trade 1 treasure with that ship or fort. So again, based on history, of course, and my research, reading about these different pirates from history. So this one, almost all of the cost comes from that +1 gold ability, because these other 2 abilities are really tiny, and I would say they're really only worth maybe like half a point each, if that. So very situational. So, +1 gold by itself is probably worth 3. So just want to make it more versatile and a little bit more of an attractive option, especially because I know most games, neither of his other abilities will come into play, but it's partly just to be more historically accurate and more representative of what Richard Taylor did in real life. So Robert Sample has a good ability spread. He's got Captain and Filching Gold, and he's got a negative actually that keeps its cost down. With Filching Gold, normally it'd probably be about 5, but then Portuguese ships get +1 to their cannon rolls against this ship. So because he had some run-ins and some issues with them. So And then on the back, we've got Robert Lane. So the ship is when an an enemy ship, and when the ship is given a move action, she gets plus S to her base move, and the ship gets -1 to her refills. So obviously not a very consequential crew, so very cheap 1 point. But I like having cheaper crew in the set too. So this is one thing I kind of look for when I'm designing a new mega pack is like how many crew, who are they, what do they do, and how do they interact with each other? And then also, are the point spreads going to be like palatable for players that want to use this pack all in one game or maybe against itself, things like that. So in this case, we've got the two big ones here on this card, 7 points each. And then we've got a 3, a 5, a 4, and a 1. So we got a bunch of different point costs with varying levels of like power and things like that, and based on historical importance. So, and of course, they're pirate achievements in this case. So that's the Golden Age of Piracy Part 1 Mega Pack. So you can check it out, pirateswithben.com/store. I'll make sure to leave a link in the description. And my last call, really, basically. So it's got to do well to keep the game in print. So if you want to save Pirates CSG in the future of the game, then this is the way to do it. So thanks for watching. I'll see you soon for more Pirates videos.